Welcome to Reed's Top 10s, Episode 10, Retro Games, Part 2. In at number 10, we have Frogger. Now, Frogger was published in 1981 by Konami and has sold a staggering 20 million plus copies, and even some of them are still being sold this year, which is a fantastic record. As for the game, very simple. You do it in two stages. The first stage is you have to get from the bottom end of the screen to the middle, avoiding traffic, which it progressively gets more and more difficult. On the other side, it's the opposite. You start using the traffic to get across. In itself, it's not difficult at all, but as I've said before, the speed, it's the acceleration as you progress that becomes more and more tricky. Very simple game, very enjoyable. Released on the Commodore 64 console, the Atari 2600, and was on a plethora of other home computers at the time. It's still enjoyable. Love it. In at number 9, we have Duckhunt. Now, Duckhunt was first released in 1984 on the Famicom in Japan, the year later on the SNES in America, and 2 years later, so that was 1988, it was released in Europe. Now, this game is straightforward, like most of the games are on here. Oh yeah, whoa. Anyway, the premise of the game is that you're a hunter. You have an infrared gun. Probably wouldn't be allowed now. I'm not sure it would be allowed. And you're shooting at it was then a television. You can complete this from start to finish. The 100 levels, because it glitches after that at level 100 and reverts back to level 0. You can complete it in 40 minutes, or if you're a completionist and you want to complete every single aspect of the game, it can take up to 4.5 hours. I didn't know this. It's a great little game. Highly recommended for anybody that has kids. In at number 8, we have Streets of Rage. Now, this was released by Sega in 91 and sold 2.5 million copies. So the plot, because this is quite plot driven, is that you are there are a few of you, you can select characters. You are ex-police vigilantes trying to rid a fictional large American city of a crime syndicate. Now come on guys, who doesn't want to be that? Who doesn't want to do that? It was the first sideways scrolling beat 'em up, and the music was fantastic as well. It was a little tiny dabble by the composer into house music, which was just coming out at that point. Fantastic game, and honestly, it still holds its ground just now. If you can it's been turned into comics. There's the rights to a movie that it should be coming out this year. It got its license last year. It should possibly be coming out this year, and this is a historical game. In at number 7, we have Paperboy. Now, Paperboy was released in 1985 by Konami and Midway. So this is again a very straightforward game where you're a paperboy. You're in suburbia, and your sole task is to collect newspapers and deliver them through the doors, which will be on your left hand side as you move from bottom to top of the screen. You've got to avoid pedestrians, cars. My favourite little object that you have to avoid is the Sinclair C5. I honestly think that was just Clive Sinclair produced that at the wrong time. Anyway, I digress. Commodore 64 was what I chose to play this on. Great little game. I'll be honest with you, I haven't been back to this, but just looking at it and reminiscing, may have a little go later today. So we have Gauntlet. Now, Atari released this banger in 1985, and you could play with 4 friends or 3 friends, 4 of you all together. You could play the wizard, the Valkyrie, the warrior, or the elf, and really it didn't make any difference. You just wanted to blast your way through this dungeon, get all the treasure, assist your friends, get the potions. It was brilliant. That's what I miss from gaming nowadays. We can do it online, but then you had to sit next to your friends, screaming at each other's faces, and it was very sociable, unlike now where you just scream at everybody else from a distance, and 90% of the time you won't make contact. if I could get this, if I find a way of playing this and can play it online with a few of you, I'm going to do this. So if any of you do know this or how to achieve this, let me know. And at number 5, we have Sensible Soccer. Now, this was released in 1992 by Sensible Software. It was a top-down, very quick little football game. It had a huge following, and it took a lot of skill. What I personally remember from this game was that you could effectively control the ball post kicking it. So to me, this was new, and it really did allow for people who practiced the most to become very good at this game. Absolutely loved it. It's very clean, very simple. And do you know what I've just found out? That in 2017, 16 or 17, the two creators of this, I can't remember their names, John Hare and Chris Yates, they actually crowdfunded and released an updated version of this. It's available on Steam, so I'm going to have a look at that later on today. But yeah, please, if you can get a chance to play the original, which came out, I played it on the CD32, I think, but it came out on almost every platform. Really good little game. Give it a go. Give it a go. In at number 4, we have Manic Miner. Now, Manic Miner came out in 1983, published by Bug Byte, and released initially on the Spectrum. It was an 8-bit game with the music coming from Grieg, you know. Yeah, you get it. So the music was fantastic. The game, wow. This is one of the original platform games. Now, basically what you have to do is collect every single item, avoid anything that moves, so that you're avoiding little turtles, poisonous gases, bats, spiders. You had to get all your keys. Once you had your keys, you got into the little box that started flashing. But on top of this, you had a certain amount of oxygen. Once the oxygen runs out, you are dead. Okay. It could be completed in a couple of hours. I'll be honest, I never completed it, but I did enjoy playing it. I have seen people completing it. It just finishes and goes back to the first screen. There's no increase in difficulty. Really good little game. Have a go. In at number 3, we have Lemmings. Now, Lemmings is a puzzle strategy game that was released in 1991 by Psygnosis. It was developed by DMA, and the point of the game is that you have to assist these little lemmings, the little green fellows, or the green-haired fellows, to escape from wherever they come in on the board to a portal which you will see somewhere on the board. Now, each of these lemmings have a specific type. Some may dig, some may block, some may have parachutes so they can drop, some may explode. But the point of the game is you have to get as many as you can possibly to the exit. Now, I can't emphasize enough how ubiquitous this game was. It was everywhere. We were talking about it, not just in schools, but in work. It was in magazines, newspapers, and everything. It was huge. In fact, you know what? I think I'm going to download a version of it today and play. Maybe you should do the same. In at number 2, we have Spy Hunter. Now, Spy Hunter was released in 1983 in the arcades by Bally Midway. In 1985, it was then developed further by US Gold and released onto all consoles. This game here was originally intended to run alongside James Bond, but they never got the licensing, and it never happened. As far as the game goes, the mechanics are straightforward. You're in a technologically advanced vehicle, and you're moving from the bottom to the top of the screen, scrolling up the way. You have weapons you can use, and you're basically trying to avoid anything and everything that's in your way. The music in this was actually phenomenal for the time. A very, very good game. The only limitation, I think, was that once you'd actually mastered it, you could get to the end relatively quickly. But that doesn't take away the fact that the enjoyment that I had playing this game on the Commodore 64 and the amount of time I wasted. I'm not going to use that word again, wasted, because I had time that I enjoyed with my friends playing this game. Before we get to number 1, I'd like to stop and ask you a favour. This is the second in a series of retro games that I'm going to be doing. I would really like you to subscribe. I know it's a pain in the bottom half the time, especially if you're not actually logged in or you don't have an account. But if you are just watching this, do me a favor. If you like this, I will make several more, but please subscribe. If you can like and share, even better, but just please subscribe. It's very important to me. Thank you. And at number 1, we have Prince of Persia. Now, Prince of Persia was released by Broderbund in 1989 in America and 1990 in Europe. It was originally created on the Apple II, I think, but then it came onto every other single console. The mechanics are fantastic. It was the first time you could actually see I could see the computer being used to its full potential. This little guy could run, he would slide, he would jump. You know, like we take for granted now that every single character, especially in Assassin's Creed type games, can do. This here was a big influence in the genre. Another World, Abe's Odyssey, Flashback, all these fantastic games, which I will come back to if you subscribe. But this game was just fantastic. It's still, when I look back at it, I still feel the awe that I felt back then. So we've arrived at the end of another episode. This here is the second in what I hope to be a long-running series. So I will make a separate playlist for these. And as I've said before, please subscribe. It's so important. You can share, you can like, and all the rest, but I would really love you to subscribe. And I'm being very beggy. Okay, thank you very much for watching.